Hey guys, Fires51 here, and I'm going to be doing a little video here about the debacle that took place a couple weeks ago about the two games that were different labels. And Cobra DVS, he said that they were just remakes of the same games, just kind of like they republished. And I wasn't kind of buying it because like the labels was really different and it was a crappier quality. It was very noticeable, and we're gonna see that later on. But it was a CZS 716. He's the one that told me that Majesco re-released a lot of games, and that kind of tipped me off. So I went online and I did a lot of research, and it turns out that that's what the deal is. It's not just Majesco though, but Arcadio / Ballistic also did some re-releases too. So basically, this video is going to be kind of like shed some light on the discrepancies between the games that you come across. And I went through my entire collection. I picked out some games, and I'm going to go through the differences and reasons why you would want to get the originals or why to avoid the remakes, and how to identify the remakes and originals. So let's get some close-up of video of the games themselves, and we'll go from there. Alright, so first off, let's talk about some original games that came out. Now we got the Golden Axe here, and as you can see, it's got the old school the grid pattern to it. That's one of the original games that came out, and on the back here it says made in Japan. Actually, let me get a close-up on that. See that made in Japan? I want to say almost all the original games, like the really early games, were actually made in Japan. But that doesn't mean that if they're not made in Japan, they're remakes by any means. And then we got another classic. This one was definitely not a remake because it's not for sale. It came with the original Genesis, and that's the Sonic 2. And again, this one's a little bit different. In the fact that it's made in Taiwan, as you can see right there. And a lot of the consoles themselves were actually made in Taiwan too. So that's another thing I know. Some of the games I found in my collection were actually made in Taiwan instead of Japan. And then we got another way of telling if it's original or not is the EA games. They got that kind of like that long elongated case, and it's got that yellow tab on the side. And as you can see, this one is a little bit different. It says made in Puerto Rico. Or assembled in Puerto Rico, I'm sorry. A lot of these that weren't actually made in Japan or Taiwan say assembled, because actually the ROM inside is more than likely actually made in Japan, and they just assembled it at that country. So this was actually assembled in Puerto Rico. Alright, now let's get to let's get to these two right here. Now this is the Lion King, and this one's really messed up. It's just been beaten up. So I'm not going to say that, this is faded, because it may just be really worn down. But this is nice and glossy. And this one's actually made, or I shouldn't say made, it's assembled in the United States. And the cover itself has kind of got that matte, it's got a kind of matte finish. This one's a lot smoother. And that's not worn. Like, there's just different kinds of cases. Some got that extra texture to them, some are actually smooth. But this one is actually made in Japan. And I took these apart and actually looked inside of them. Both actually the ROMs are actually made in Japan. But I can't say for sure because this is really worn. But I'm thinking maybe the Japanese cover might be not as glossy. But then again, it could just be really worn down. I mean, this is pretty beat up. But that just goes to show, like, same game, not remakes, but just same game. Some were assembled or in America, and actually one was made and assembled in Japan itself. So let's actually check out a legit remake here. This is not made by Arcadia or Majesco, because on the back of them, if you have the actual case itself, it's going to tell you on the back whether or not it's made from Majesco or Ballistic. In fact, I'm going to insert some pictures in right now. So as you can see, they let you know whether or not it's a remake. Or a republish, I should say. And on the inside here, I'm not. I heard that this actually is not supposed to be there. This was supposed to be a black and white manual for this because it's a Sega Classic. So I'm thinking that this is actually from the original game itself, the original published game, and then this put in there. But I believe this is actually the remade game, the republished one. Even though it's got the grid square, the grid pattern on the bottom, and it looks very much like an old one. If you look on the back, it's assembled in the United States. And like I said, I think most of the original games, which would be Columns, one of the original ones, was all made and assembled in Japan. So that's what makes me believe that this is actually the remade game, even though it looks exactly like the original one. It's just because it says assembled in America, United States. So, you know, not much difference in these official remakes. So let's check out some remade versions. Where's it at? Oh, here we go. So we got all these right here. These are all. Well, actually, this was not a remake. These are all remakes. And the one thing I have noticed about the remakes, a lot of them have that faded, you know, it's really faded looking. And, you know, I'm about to show you pictures of close-ups. Actually, I see it right now. So you can see the actual close-ups of these pictures, and they're not perfectly, you know, crystal clear. They're really, you know, blurry like. Especially these two. Let's compare these two. These two right here. Let's compare those right now. So as you can see, I mean, they're a lot different in the quality of the picture itself, and I think they actually use different, you know, glue adhesive too, because I'm telling you, like, I don't have any of the first release ones that have this paper torn at the top coming off, you know. And I read online that they actually use a lot of matte paint instead of the glossy, because like, all these look really, really faded, but actually it's just the quality of the paper they use. And Majesco and Ballistic were trying to cut costs, so that's what they did. They just cut costs on the quality of the paper itself. Now the ROMs themselves, I've heard, were actually pretty much the same. Now there are some differences, but overall people said there's no real difference in the quality so much. But I heard rumors say that, you know, the pens themselves are thinner, or they're made out of copper, or not copper, but tin instead of coated with gold. So those are here or there. I don't know for sure. I can't really tell you about that, but that's what I've heard. So let's go over a remake and a original right here. Actually, this ain't a remake. Where's it? Yeah, it is. I take it back. Both Pitfall, and both covers look pretty decent. This one looks a little bit better quality, I would say. I actually had to take out the name I was running across it, so it's a little bit faded because of the acetone I used, but or the rubbing alcohol. But anyways, again, you can see pretty good that there's actually a quality in the paper. This is really glossy, and this is not really as glossy. I mean, you can kind of see that. The next big thing to check is the back. You see on this one, it says assembled in the United States. And check out the screw heads. The screw heads, let me get there it is. The screw heads use the same screw head bit that you take apart a Super Nintendo. That's what takes out these screws. Now on the remake, as you can see here, it's assembled in Mexico. I think that's a huge telltale sign. And also the screw type. As you can kind of see, it's not the same screw type. It's actually a kind of like a star with the hole security screw bit. You can actually pick those up at a hardware store. They're pretty common. Security type bit. This is not. This one you actually kind of have to order special. So those are the two huge differences that you can tell right off the bat, is where it's assembled and the security screw type itself. Now, secondly, let me try to get a picture of this. I don't know if you can. You know what? Let's cut it. Let's cut this video right here, and we're gonna show you.